This is the Fantasy Ladder Podcast, episode 44. This is now part two of the NFL Wildcard Weekend preview. Just going to explain the Wildcard Weekend schedule once again because some of the lines have shifted even from the recording yesterday. And then we will get into the teams that we did not cover yesterday, or as many as we are able to here tonight. So just want to recap the first seed buys are the Eagles and the Chiefs. Saturday will kick off with the Seattle Seahawks at the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers are now favored -10 on a 42 over under line. Chargers at Jaguars Saturday night, over under set at 47.5 still. That line has shifted down a bit, so the Chargers are still favored, but only 1.5 rather than 2. Sunday's slate, we got the Dolphins at the Bills. 13.5 favorites now on the Bills side with Tua Tagovailoa officially ruled out with the over-under at 43.5. Giants Vikings. That line has not changed. That's still -3. Vikings at home, over under 48. Then Sunday night football, we will have the Ravens at the Bengals. That line has been having a lot of movement, as we will touch on that here pretty quickly. But that is now set at 9.5. Bengals favor over under 40.5. And then on Monday night football, got the Dallas Cowboys at -2.5 at the Buccaneers with the over under at 45.5. So we will welcome on Andrew, who will cover the team who did not suffer the Super Bowl hangover at this point, the Cincinnati Bengals, of course. So, Andrew, first tell everyone where they can find you on Twitter and what kind of content you got coming out for us.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Steve. I'm on Twitter at Andrew Hall FF. I write for Fantasy Pros. I also have a podcast of my own at Dynasty Junkies. Find us on there. We go live almost every Thursday night. During the season, off season, every Thursday. There is no stopping in Dynasty. So we're always good to go on there, and come check us out.
I love it. I love it. So, yeah. Like I said, there has been pretty heavy movement on the line of this game in favor of the Bengals. Very clearly now that Lamar Jackson will not be suiting up in this one, on top of just another season of a lot of injuries on the Ravens side. But the Bengals, last year was no fluke, is what it seems. In a typically tough division, they still have risen to the top once again here. So, Andrew, what are you most confident about heading into this matchup? And is there any area of the team that you would kind of shake your confidence with what you've seen up to this point of the season?
Well, I'll say this as a Bengals fan who has watched them all season. I've been to every home game. I'm a season ticket holder. I'm not hiding that fact. I mean, I'm an unabashed fan of this team, right? I will say that the team has been kind of a tale of two teams, really. The first 5 or 6 games, maybe even 7 games, if you want to get into it, was kind of stagnant and stale, and not really sure what was going on. I know there were a lot of people when we were 4-4. It was kind of like, what's going to happen with this team? Are we really going to go? I mean, are we going to have that hangover and everything? I think the defense really picked it up. I do think Lou Anarumo and that defense really showed up and figured out that what they were doing. I think the offense decided to change some things around as well and say, hey, you know what? Maybe we got to do something different here. So I think the last 8 games, obviously going on that 8 games, winning streak, not counting the Bills game, unfortunately. But like that 8-game winning streak really, I think, showed what the team can do. And then, of course, last week we played the Ravens to kind of get this home game with all that coin flip nonsense. And I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole with you. But I will say that game, it was frustrating to watch in person because I was like, what? This isn't the team I signed up for. What is this? Like, this is not, I mean, they're running weird patterns. They're running the ball way up the middle more. Like, it just felt really messy. And it took me probably into the second quarter to realize, wait a minute, why would we do our normal offense? The first time we saw the Ravens was earlier in the season. They saw that first version of the offense I mentioned. It was kind of iffy and not great. Why would we reveal our deck of cards to that defense? There's no reason. There's no benefit. We know we're playing them next week. Why would we do that? So I think what they did was they just installed the game plan they did from the first time that we played them, and we just kind of played a let's just get out of here with a W kind of game. And I think that's what made me a little worried at first. And kind of, I think a lot of Bengals fans are like, why aren't we stomping them here? But we don't need to. All we need is a win. And we got the win. Didn't need to be pretty. We didn't get any injuries other than obviously Leo Collins has been out. And we got Kappa, I think now is hurt. And so he's not going to play in this game. So that kind of stinks. But like no other injuries that were, dramatic and huge to the offense, thank God. But again, I'm looking forward to a good game. I'm looking forward to our offense kind of showing up like they're used to. I'm looking forward to our defense standing up. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a very different game than the last two we've seen against the Ravens.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of an area of concern for your opponent's side of the ball is just the inability to put up points. And to, as far as I'm concerned, to hang with the Bengals, you have to be putting up points. Now they haven't topped 20 points in seven straight contests. So um I think as long as you guys score 21, I think you'll get the W, but you still got to take care of business and just not screw it up, if you will. I think there are a couple games on the wild card slate that should be pretty easy wins, and I would consider this to be one. Now, still got to execute, still got to just not vomit on yourself, if you will. But
Right.
I think because I mean it does happen, it does happen.
Oh
But
yeah.
I think definitely the Bengals are primed to for sure succeed at home against a tough division rival, but it's not quite the same tough division rival without Lamar Jackson, of course.
No,
But
I completely agree. And I think our defense is going to do well. But also, I mean, having a 9.5 point spread right now is that's a lot. And like you put it well, I don't want to vomit all over ourselves and all that. Like that's exactly right. If this was our team last year, I'd be nervous. But I know that
mm,
we've been to the playoffs. I know that we've done this before. I know Joe Burrow's got it figured out. So I'm not really that nervous on the sense of are they going to vomit on themselves, right? That can't always happen. And I am always nervous a little bit of that.
of course.
That being said, it is still kind of a divisional game, and it is a game with a team that regardless of who's a quarterback, they know us really well, and so that 9.5 point spread is a lot, and I wouldn't fault anyone for taking Ravens plus 9.5 because as we've seen, any game can be close in this NFL right now. We've got teams that should be blowing people out that are winning close games. I mean, Buffalo both times against Miami, were both were close games and should have easily won. So I think it just happens all the time. So I'm just hoping for a good game, no injuries, that we get through it. I would love to have another home game, but we're going to have a whole lot of things go right for that to happen. So I'm just expecting a really fun game on Sunday night. Crazy atmosphere, crazy excitement and energy, and I think it's going to be a good game.
And you'll be at that game.
Oh yeah, be at that game
Oh,
just like every other
that's
game. Yeah,
awesome.
let's
Awesome,
go.
awesome.
Let's go.
Love
Ready.
it. Now, say the Bengals win. How far do you think they have the opportunity to go in this playoffs? And if you're not predicting them to win the Super Bowl, who would you be predicting as a Super Bowl champion for what we've seen from the collective NFL up to this point?
Well, I'll be honest. I'm predicting them to win a Super Bowl. I have to. Like, at what point does this team show weakness? I can't see it. And again, I think with the way that we got there last year, it felt like
Yep.
all the stars aligned. I feel like the stars have stayed that way. We haven't really, again, we haven't gone crazy. I think even if we have some struggles on the offensive line, which you could call our weakness still, even with the injuries, I still think this team has what it takes to make it happen and to get it done. So I'm very excited, and I am predicting them to get there, but it's a rough path. We're going to have to go through, in my prediction anyway, we're going to have to beat the Bills and the Chiefs and then the Eagles to get to the Super Bowl championship. So that is probably one of, if not the hardest path for any team to go through. And again, that's expecting the Eagles to get there, which is a whole different path of its own that people may not predict. But again, just the way that it's lining up, we're going to have to beat at least the Bills or the Chiefs, if not both, just to get to the Super Bowl. And then we're facing whoever the best NFC team is, like we saw last year. So it's going to be brutal. And it all starts with this win, one game at a time. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. And I do think that, Zach Taylor and the boys have it figured out. I do think that, again, there was that kind of bye week with that Monday Night Football thing. They got ready. They didn't have to play. It was a really weird, emotional game for everybody. So it was
Yeah.
nice last week to see the rust get knocked off, to kind of get back in the habit of things. That's entirely behind us. So again, the timing in my mind is pretty good. We're on an 8-game winning streak. Like, now is the chance that we got, just like last year. And again, I am very glad we didn't experience a hangover like the Rams did. I mean, that team is just, I don't know what happened to them, but yeah, I'm just glad to not be a Rams fan this year. Is really where I'm at.
Absolutely, yeah. It's really when you look across the Bengals offense, it really is quite terrifying. You got the slot with Tyler Boyd, big guys on the outside. Well, I guess Higgins plays in the slot too sometimes, I suppose.
Even
But
Chase
Jamar
in the slot,
Chase,
yeah, they just kind of rotate those three, and that's the best thing about having those three is you never know where they're going to be.
on top of Hayden Hurst being back, which I think is huge, and then a really nice 1-2 punch with Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine on
Yeah,
top of Joe Burrow. So it's a pretty fantastic offensive, very fun team to watch. So just
definitely.
being as an Eagles fan, trying to be unbiased, the Bengals are just a lot of fun right now. So if it comes to a Bengals Eagles Super Bowl, of course I'd be devastated if the Eagles lost, but I would still would be happy for the Bengals if they took it. So yeah. Now, real quick here, you touched on it in the beginning, but like the whole coin flip thing. Can you just summarize that in like on like an elevator ride? Like what's going on with the coin flip situation?
Yeah, so the rules that the NFL had before this game, they did have contingencies in place for canceled games, most likely due to weather and other things like that.
Right.
I think the fact that it was the end of that week and there was only 1 week left, there was no bye weeks they could move games to. They can't really move the playoffs. I think there's just too much on the line with TV contracts and things that would just been brutal. So they were kind of almost figuratively up against a wall. And I think the way the NFL did this was probably the best possible outcome. I don't want to get too negative on this, but the
Sure.
logic was the fact that the winning percentage for the Bengals was going to be higher than the Ravens no matter what. So therefore, the Ravens had no chance to win the division, whether they beat us or not in Week 18. But
Right.
because if we had lost to the Bills, they would be playing for the playoffs or for the home field advantage and all that. The NFL
Mm,
wanted to kind of be quote unquote fair and give the Ravens a chance to earn home field advantage, even though they had no chance to win the division. Now, again, I get where they're going with this, but there's never been a time in NFL history where the division champion didn't get home field advantage. That just makes zero sense to me to say, well, we're going to do this thing that we planned out, but we're going to change the rules to give your opponent a chance. I mean, it just made no sense. And then it forced the Bengals to have to start everybody. We couldn't rest anybody. And the
sure.
Ravens
Yeah.
obviously were like, well, we have a long shot to win anyway with Lamar hurt. So they got to rest JK and Mark Andrews. It's like they got a little bit of an extra bye week in a sense to come in fresh to the playoffs when it matters more anyway. So again,
Oh, that's
I
interesting.
don't know.
Okay.
It just the whole thing was just kind of wonky. So again, if the Ravens had won in week 18, there would then be a coin flip to see which team got the home field advantage for this week's game. So because the Bengals won,
Oh,
there
I
was no
see.
need for a
Okay.
coin flip.
Okay.
That's pretty much what it was.
I gotcha. Yeah, then of course, Joe Mixon pulled the quarter out of his sock, and that
Loved
was
it.
hilarious. Yeah, it just
Loved it.
was flashbacks of like Chad Johnson,
Yep.
on the frame and on your wall there. So yeah, that was awesome. But Andrew, appreciate your time and appreciate you talking about your Bengals, and best of luck.
Hey, glad to be here. And again, I'd love to face your Eagles in the Super Bowl. That means we both had great seasons. I'm with you. Like, even
That's
if we
right.
lose in the Super Bowl again, I mean, again, it's hard to say what I'll feel, but I will not be as upset as if we didn't make the playoffs, right? Like,
That's
being
right.
second place is definitely better than 14th. So, yeah, or I guess 16th or 15th, whatever it is this year. But yeah, I'm just excited to be here. So, again, thanks for having me on. It was always fun talking about my Bengals.
All right, you got it. All righty, sir. Thanks. Appreciate it. All right. So we will now bring on Clinton. So Clinton, tell people where they can find you. Please mention any content you got coming out or in the future, otherwise, and tell us what team you are representing. Even though your hat is giving it away, that's all right. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. Good to be here. Thanks for having me on. Obviously, Vikings representing the Minnesota Vikings here tonight. Uh, you know, um, my Twitter handle is at Clinton Holmer. Just click my name on here. Most of my work is DFS stuff. So throughout the season with IDP guys, you can find the betting guide that we put out. Me and two others, Matt Rickard and Brandon Hay, who I think we had on yesterday.
That's right. Yep.
He represented the Jaguars, and we've put out a betting guide each week. But I also do a short video, 60 second, 1 minute video. I call it the DFS minute each week. Just go ahead and pick out some guys that I like, set a lineup for FanDuel and DraftKings. If you go to the IDP Guys YouTube page and just search DFS Minute, you can find all most of those on there. But other than that, don't do a whole lot in the off season. I kind of switch my gears and focus on baseball.
Yep.
So if you ever have any baseball questions, reach out. I do a lot of fantasy baseball just as much as I do football. Don't do a whole lot of content on it. I've done some, individual daily videos and things like that. But yeah, all my stuff has been on IDP guys. I have some Dynasty articles from last year. I don't know if I'll put any out this summer, or throughout the rest of the winter here. We'll see.
Gotcha. Now, being a Minnesota sports fan, I did see that Carlos Carrera signed his third major contract this offseason, this
Yeah,
time as an extension with the Twins. What's going on there? Is he going to be on the Twins,
yeah.
or is
He,
still
he I
pending a
think he inked it
physical? Or...
yesterday or this morning or something like that.
Oh,
So that's
perfect. Okay.
official. So basically, what happened there was, the Mets and the San Francisco were offering him, 10 plus years, 10 or more, at
Yeah.
300 mil or more. Whereas the Twins, they were doing just a little lower. They know his injury history, obviously, and all that's coming back in that physical, I think, is a past leg injury where he's had surgery or something like that. And these teams all of a sudden decided they weren't committed to giving him that many years. And so the Twins swept in, and he liked it. Minnesota last year. They kind of were the surprise team that showed up last year and brought him on. Same thing, obviously now, but it's a 6-year deal, and it's actually in the Twins' favor this time instead of his. So he can't just opt out; it's all the Twins opt outs. Plus, there's a bunch of incentives for him. So if he plays well and he's out there on the field, but the same team that employs Byron Buxton and lets him keep going out there and getting hurt, now we have Correa. So we'll see.
Gotcha. Yeah, that wasn't on the show sheet, but I appreciate you answering my question there. I was very curious about that. I'm like, I thought he just signed with,
Yeah,
but
it was, it
whatever.
was kind of a
So
whirlwind there. Yeah, I'm glad.
gotcha.
Whatever.
Very
Bring him
cool,
here.
very cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so keep an eye out for Clinton's baseball DFS stuff as well. So aside from the fantastic, obviously football content. So all right, buddy, we'll get to the Vikings in just a second, but for now, we will also bring on to the show Jay. So Jay, tell people where they can find you and mention any content you are putting out and which team you are representing.
Hey, you can find me over on Twitter at FantasyJ77. I'm doing Wednesday nights hosting on Fantasy Intervention, and then Thursday nights is on Dynasty Gambit on the Going for Two network. And right now in the off season, Wednesday nights we're running every week. We've basically changed it over from redraft to Dynasty being in the off season, and then on the Gambit we're strictly a Dynasty show, but we're doing every other Thursday night during the off season. So it's been fun. And I am representing my Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
There you go. All right. Yeah. Yeah, that actually to me seems like one of the only matchups that really looks like it could be a divisional weekend matchup. It's going to be I think one of the tougher ones on paper, but we will definitely get to that matchup in a little bit where I'll give some thoughts on the Cowboys, but of course you will cover the Buccaneers more than well, I am sure. So I appreciate you being here, buddy.
Absolutely. Thank you,
And
Steve.
oh yeah, you got it. And we'll bring on another J.
There we
G-Men J.
go.
Here he is
Perfect
at
timing,
last.
Clinton. Good to see you, my friend. We were
That's right.
trading some friendly some barbs, all in good fun on Twitter.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Jay, please tell people where they can find you on social media, on Twitter, and please mention any content that you got coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on Twitter at GmenJ. Shocker, I'm a fan of the New York Giants. I'm a part of the team over at Front Yard Fantasy. You can follow us
Perfect.
at
Yep.
Front Yard FYF. I do a little bit of everything over there. I do some of the shows. Biggest way you can support us is to go to our YouTube page, Front Yard Fantasy on YouTube. We have a morning show on the Better Sports Network Monday through Friday. 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern, and it's basically what we had with the game show, which we still do twice a week. But we like to mix fantasy with fun. Fantasy is supposed to be fun. We don't take ourselves too seriously. We give you good advice, but we make you laugh while you're doing it. Take popular games and kind of mold them to fit with fantasy football. So we'll do like Wheel of Fortune, but with a fantasy football twist. There's a lot more than that. It's a ton of fun. We got some great guys over there. That's the best way you can support us, to go check us out on our YouTube page.
Yeah, I must say, very enjoyable and entertaining TikTok page as well. So
we put out a lot of nonsense, so we get some good information and also a lot of nonsense too.
Oh no, I was gonna say there was one that I just like. I literally laughed out loud at talking about potential head coach candidates, and just a lot of good names. And at the very end, it's a very great punchline. So I'll let you all check
Go
it
check
out
that
and
one
see
out.
for
And
yourself. Yeah.
not to brag or anything, but that was that was my idea. So just
Oh, there you
throw that
go.
out there. So
Excellent. I love it. So a good guy, good sense of humor. Only thing that's wrong with you is that you're a Giants fan, but
yeah,
but
I
that's all
get
right.
that a lot. I'm a
No,
Yankees fan too, and I'm used to everybody hating on me for that. So
there you go. That's all right. My longtime roommate in college is also a Yankees and Giants man.
okay,
So we got the Penn State connection, but
I got
he has the flaw of the sports fandom as well. But I
Yeah,
love him to death too. So
about
it's all
half
good.
of my family is Mets, Jets, and Islanders. The other
Oh,
half is Giants, Yankees. I was a Rangers fan when I started growing up, but I live in North Carolina now. I don't know if you knew that or not. I grew up here. I was around when the Hurricanes moved from Hartford, went to the first game ever, so that's the only professional team I did adopt here in North
There
Carolina.
you
So
go.
I'm Yankees, Giants, and Carolina Hurricanes.
There you go. Very cool. Very cool. Well, I appreciate you coming out,
Yeah,
and this is great. I'll talk about the Cowboys with Jay, and then you'll of course talk about the Vikings and Giants with Clinton. So we'll just stay on the
I'm
same
excited.
screen and knock it out. So, Jay,
Which
Fantasy
Jay?
Jay. Yeah,
Okay.
sorry about that. Yeah, you guys are next to each other. I'll just say Bucks Jay.
There you
We're
go.
going to talk about this matchup first here on Monday Night Football. Cowboys are on the road. They are favorites. 2.5 with the over under at 45.5. Basically, for me, trying to be as unbiased as possible, Eagles fan, of course, but I think the key to the Cowboys' success is really just lies on solely Dak Prescott. The dude has 13 interceptions in the last 7 games. He just has to tighten it up and just take care of the ball. Still a solid defense, good running game, good weapons to throw to. He just has to really tighten up his decision making process. And as I said, this matchup really just feels like a divisional weekend type of a matchup here. So a lot of very interesting things can happen in this one. Tom Brady made it to the playoffs, of course, with all the turmoil in his personal life. Just you hate to see that kind of stuff, but he's still the GOAT. He's still back in the playoffs, despite the NFC South just being pretty poor this season, but to say it lightly. But yeah, so I think the key to the Cowboys' success is a quarterback play. So, Jay, please tell me, what are you most confident about for your Bucks, and what are you least confident about your Bucks in this matchup against the Cowboys?
This is probably going to be a really, really short list about what I am confident on.
Fair enough. Okay.
About the only thing I'm going to be confident in is that Tom Brady is going to throw the ball 40 plus times. He's done it 13 of 17 games this year. So that's about the only thing I'm going to be confident in. Other than probably Chris Godwin getting, 8 or 10 targets as well as him throwing the 40 times. The least confident thing is who's going to win. This game could honestly end in a tie, which would absolutely be just the ideal thing for 2020 football season. I mean, it's like you said, this game could be so tight. The other thing I'll say though that I'm confident in is when you look back at what Tampa does during the regular season compared to what they do in the postseason, at least since Brady's been there, when they play a team in the regular season and then play them again in the postseason, take out the Rams last year in the divisional game, they come with a completely different game plan, and it looks like a different football team than what you saw all year. You look at the Chiefs when they in 2020 when they did win the Super Bowl, they played the Chiefs, in Tampa, and that's the Tyreek. He had 200 freaking yards in like the first drive or something like that. It was just insane, But then you turn around and you the very next game they changed up the defensive coverage, and Tyreek was held to like 60 yards, for the game. It was absolutely wonderful to watch that Todd Bowles defense, that style, without having Bruce Arians there. Now it's Todd Bowles and Byron Leftwich doing it on their own. It's been kind of questionable play callings on both sides, defense and offensively for the pair.
Gotcha. So, is there a singular aspect of the Buccaneers team that you think will swing the game as far as winning or losing? Do you think it all kind of falls on Brady? Do you think like the linebacker play has to step up, or what have you? Is there like a singular position or key player you think that exists in this matchup?
Well, it's. I don't think it's all on Brady. I think it actually is going to fall on the defense, and probably more importantly, the front seven. You got Vita Vea coming back. You got Akeem Hicks coming back. They've got to get the pressure up the middle. Run stopping. With Zeke and Pollard both. Open up the rush lanes for Devin White to get to the quarterback to force Dak into these turnovers. These 7 games in a row he's thrown the ball to the wrong team. 15 picks for the whole year. I'm not saying that Brady's been much better, but you look at the first 9 games or so, he had 2 interceptions. The last few games, he's actually tried to force the ball a little bit more when they were trying to make that playoff run. But you look at Dak over the last 2 weeks, to inferior teams, Tennessee and Washington, and the whole offense is just for Dallas has just not looked like they're put together. And neither did the Bucks, by the way. I'm not saying that as a plus for the Bucks, but so the answer to your question though is the front seven for Tampa's D is probably the ones that will most likely affect the outcome of the game. Like I said, Vita Vea, you got Akeem Hicks, you got Carlton Davis coming back. You've got I believe I've got the list right here of everybody's coming back. Nassib's supposed to be back. Kyle Rudolph is the only one that's questionable. Logan Ryan limited practice today. Sean Murphy Bunning's coming back. So we're starting to get, as Tom Brady says, we're starting to get healthy at the right time. But we are now healthier. We're more healthy now as a team than we have been since like training camp and mini camps and things like that. So that's a huge plus there.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. So I think with that in mind, you try to limit the running game, put it all on Dak to put himself in a position to keep on making these mistakes. So yeah, I like that. I think that makes a lot of sense. So that's good stuff. Now, say the Bucks win or they don't win. Who would you say what would be your prediction for a Super Bowl champion this season from what we've seen up to this point and who's made the playoffs?
Man, to be honest, I'm gonna have to agree with Andrew. I think it's the Bengals. I mean, even if my Bucks get there, which godly, could that happen? I don't know, but I truly believe it is. This season is all about the Bengals. I think it's going to be the Bengals and the Bills in the AFC title game, and I think the Eagles are going to get it out of the NFC. But like Andrew said, I couldn't be pissed or mad at if it was the Eagles that won it. I mean, they've had a phenomenal season and well deserved. I think the Bengals are, you look at, like you said earlier, the Super Bowl or the playoff hangover, Super Bowl hangover, whatever. It's phenomenal to watch these guys, these young kids, where you've got Chase and Higgins and Burrow, Chase or Higgins being 3 years in the league and the other two being 2 years in the league, and they're sitting there. This would be if they make it, their second Super Bowl appearance, and it's like, okay, I mean, you can't not root for that. I don't think.
No, definitely. Yeah, it's quite the turnaround. I mean, like Zach Taylor looked like he was like the laughing head, just like the laughing stock of like the head coaching world, and then a very quick turnaround, and he did it 2 years in a row. So yeah, again, I really can't argue with it. Like I said with Andrew, that would be a lot of fun. I'm not gonna lie, but I would be devastated, of course, if it happens at the Eagles' expense. But that's we'll have to wait to see if we even get to that point. But yeah, so all right. I appreciate your thoughts on that, Jay. And if you want to hang out and stick around, that'd be awesome. But if you gotta bounce, we can bounce.
No,
Awesome.
I'm gonna hang out and watch these two just go to battle right here. This is gonna be more fun seeing it live.
Perfect. Well, I'll let that tension build as we bring in another fan of the AFC. We got Brett. So, Brett, tell people where they can find you, and please let us know what team you are representing in this episode.
Hey guys, hey Steve, Brett at DadBod Brett on Twitter, and I'm unfortunately a Miami Dolphins fan. So
yeah.
Steve asked me to do some, you always do some research before you hop on one of these, and like more than the matchup itself, it's the fact that the Dolphins haven't won a playoff game since the year Tom Brady was drafted. So it's like, I don't know if it's a Tom Brady curse but that's just so painful. And then to go into the playoffs this year with our quarterback injured again, which I think the last time we made the playoffs, Ryan Tannehill was injured, if I remember correctly. So it's just
that's right. Yeah.
Completely cursed. Right. No chance ever. So
we talked about that when you
instead of wearing a Tua jersey, I'm just here in mourning wearing a black shirt.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So yeah, definitely the Bills and Dolphins matchup seems to be one of the unfortunate matchups of the weekend. But um, I mean, hey, the consolation prize, at least like the New England Patriots aren't in the postseason, and I think moving forward. You really like a lot of what Mike McDaniel has done so far. I think it's sort of hushed a lot of the Tua haters. Just a bizarre season of two concussions, and it's just unbelievably like bad luck there. But it's not like a Tua problem. It seemed to be like an offensive minded problem that was now fixed with Mike McDaniel. So
It's worse. It's worse because Tua haters think that he's fragile.
oh,
Tua
gotcha.
lovers think he's a god. And he had some incredible games, just launching it up to Tyreek. And
Yep.
then he got concussed and injured and missed games. So it's like it's worse than ever for Dolphins Twitter and Dolphins fans in general. Like, because half of them want him gone and half of them love him and think that he's going to win us a Super Bowl one day. And honestly, I think we just need a really good backup for Tua's entire career. So, because I get it, like, but he could be a concussion away from calling it quits.
Yeah,
Or
yeah, no, I think Teddy Bridgewater is an ample backup option, but he just always seems to have something going on
Yeah.
in the injury category as well, and it's really rough. He's just a really easy guy to root for, but just like just to say, there just the one game he starts, he breaks his finger. It's just unbelievable, It's really, I don't
he
know.
got
I'm
picked
not
off on that
saying.
play. And
Oh,
I don't know if
gotcha,
he got
gotcha.
picked off because he got hit. Watching the game, it looked like he would have gotten picked off anyways. It's just like it's the Dolphins.
Yeah, yeah, but as we did say in the Dolphins preview over the summer, that this is their the last time they're in the playoffs. It was the Matt Moore led offense, with Jay Ajayi and Mike Wallace. Of course, unfortunately losing to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who had Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell at that time. But yeah, it's just a really rough situation. But now, do you see any path for the Dolphins to win? And I ask this because Dustin, who represented the Bills last night, he. He's pretty confident in his Bills, but he does see a world that exists where the Dolphins could at least keep it close. Did you see anything like that, or are you just hoping it's as painless as possible?
Well, it's a 1 p.m. game, so maybe Josh Allen thinks it's a 4 p.m. game and sleeps in,
There you go.
and that would be our best chance. Yeah, because then we'd have pretty equal situations at QB, maybe.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, because
No,
he
but
had some
really,
concerns. Yeah.
you know, if Skylar absolutely steps up and our defense can control them, then maybe. I mean, it's just where Dolphins fans are down in the dumps. I think someone sent me, there's all these graphics going around. Mike McDaniel is like 0-8 if it's less than 40-degree weather. So it's like, there's nothing in our favor right now. So yeah,
Gotcha.
it's good to go in with no expectations. And it's our usual time slot. So I get to enjoy the rest of my Sunday if I don't want to watch
There you
any
go.
more football. 1 p.m. We're in and we're out. And then, but I probably will just spend the rest of the day watching football and crying. But
Well, there you
it's
go.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. So what Dustin was saying, I thought was pretty interesting. He said that the Bills' run defense has been quite disappointing. And the last time that they played, there was no Jeff Wilson, so they will have a new sort of a face to play there with Jeff Wilson. Because I'm not sure if Mostert's going to be active or even 100% because he had broken thumb, I believe. It's all these things start piling up. It's horrible. But he was saying like he thinks a world does exist where if the Dolphins, really have really long sustained drives and limit the time that Josh Allen's on the field, that way that there's a scenario where they could keep it close and you just get the
Not
ball and Tyreek
impossible. Any
kills.
given Sunday.
Right.
But
That's right. That's exactly what he said. But it does
yeah.
seem a little grim for sure. Hence the black shirt and the black hat and the black headphones. But, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So yeah.
I honestly there was rumors swirling that if we didn't make the playoffs, that McDaniel's job was on like he was on the hot seat. He might have gotten let go, which is crazy to me. First year head coach and gets this close. I get it. I mean, the arguments that Flores got that close also, but it was his third year. And he, couldn't figure out offense. So we flipped that, figured out offense, kind of haven't figured out defense, but still, we would have gotten one game away. But the most thankful for the fact that we actually get an extra game and that McDaniels probably saved his job. And especially with Harbaugh rumors again, and Stephen Ross always being connected to Harbaugh, I was like, yeah, this could happen. Let's make sure it doesn't. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited for next season, and hopeful that we keep it close. But I'm not super optimistic, like the rest of the fans in here. I mean, Jay, I think your Bucks should beat Dallas at home. And I think Dallas has a good team, but Tom Brady at home is hard to beat. But I think the Dolphins are the team that, like, everyone knows that they're definitely gone. Like, if you're doing a playoff pool, that's the first one you pick. You're like, all right, Bills win.
Gotcha. Now, say the Dolphins lose, right? Who would you have as the Super Bowl winner, or who would be like your backup team that you'd be hoping makes a run here?
If there's ever a season for an AFC East fan to kind of root for the Bills, it might be this season. Like, give them an excuse. They've got some added motivation. Nice story.
Absolutely.
And I can definitely see. I would think it's going to be the Bills or the Chiefs from the AFC. I know there's a lot of people picking the Bengals, and I can see that happening too. I mean, those three teams are obviously head and shoulders ahead of the rest. And then I think your Eagles, man. So if I had to pick right now, I would pick Bills Eagles.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And I think the Bills could win that matchup. But that would be a really good Super Bowl, I think.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Same exact prediction that Dustin had as well, just with the Bills and Dolphins matchup there. But yeah, I have my own worries about the Eagles. I may just be jaded, as per usual, just as a Philadelphia fan. But either way, yeah. So that'll be really exciting. Super Bowl, obviously, the Bills and Eagles would be great. But yeah, Brett, definitely hope for the best for the Dolphins. But I think definitely a really bright future moving forward here in Miami. So yeah, I think a lot to look forward to for sure.
I agree. I hope so. We'll see. This
Alrighty.
Brady's curse has to end eventually. Maybe when he retires.
There you go.
If he retires.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Robo
like
Brady.
if his cyborg chip, fries, maybe then, but yeah,
why are you pushing the old man out? Is this
I just want
why are you being ageist right now?
I just want the Dolphins to win a playoff game, whatever it takes. One of them. In my lifetime. I guess one of them has happened in my lifetime. One of them happened in my lifetime.
I was just going to ask, does the jinx carry over if he's the quarterback of the Dolphins?
Yeah, that's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it carries
it's a double
over.
jinx.
Okay.
Yeah.
In that case, the NFL season would just be canceled for reasons unknown. Yeah.
Coin flips answer everything. They wins, losses, ties,
no, we would, or maybe we make the Super Bowl and lose 28-3.
Oh wow!
So wait, Matt Ryan has to be included in this game somehow.
He'll be the backup.
He would be the referee. Yeah, I think he'd be the ref probably, and still find a way to have a turnover. But yeah, so appreciate you coming on, Brett, and really do just wish you the best of luck with your Dolphins. But definitely a lot to be excited about down the road here. But we will be touching now on the Giants at the Vikings. So we are going to start with the home team, with the Minnesota Vikings. So Clinton, we have the Vikings with a first-year head coach who I would say had an outstanding season here for them. So at this point, what are you most confident about into this matchup, and what would you be the least confident about regarding your Vikings?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously they played on Christmas Eve in the afternoon. The most confidence is obviously Cousins, Jefferson, Hawkinson. If you look back at that first game, they Jefferson and Hawkinson each had, I think, over 10 for each over 100 yards in that game, and I think that continues into this game. I think you'll see. It stinks that it's not the noon game because that's when we get the best Kirk Cousins, and that we get a 3 o'clock game, 3 o'clock Central, I should say, 3:30 or whatever. But that's okay. I think Cousins has a big game. Obviously, the least confidence is in our defense. When they're allowing Hodgins and Richie James each to get 9 grabs, 80 some yards plus, or whatever it was the last time. And then, Saquon gashed us at the end of the game to kind of take over a little bit and get them back in the game. But that would be the other concern is the offensive line. So the Vikings went into the Packers game already having a backup center. And then he got hurt. Reed guy came in and he was terrible. Like Cousins couldn't get him to snap the ball. It looked a lot better against Chicago this last week. But it sounds like Bradbury might be back this week, the starting center, and he improved greatly from last year. And then we lost our right tackle O'Neal the same game against the Packers. He's all pro, so that's a big deal going into the playoffs. So Oli Udo, I think, is the next guy there on the right side, but we'll see what happens with that. I'd say biggest concern offensive line and defense. Obviously the Vikings defense all year has been terrible. But then we used to have the great offense. You had a lot of weapons on the offensive side of the ball that obviously they kept them in games all year.
What's going on with Dalvin Cook? Is there any update on his availability? Because I know he left the game last week early, and Madison, he did all right filling in. But any
Yeah.
update on his?
I don't think I didn't look at the injury report. I don't think he was. I don't know if he was even on it, to be honest.
Oh, good. Okay.
I think he
Gotcha.
left out of precaution. He came back. He came back into the game for a couple plays, and then I think at half they basically pulled all the starters. Madison, obviously, but I think he had 2 touchdowns last week. So I would, just like the Cowboys with Pollard, some of these other playoff teams, you already have your formidable, your backup. Madison can play with any team probably.
Yep.
So there's not a huge gap in the miss there, but he ran well against the Giants in that first game as well. Didn't get a lot of carries because it turned into a passing fest, even though it probably didn't need to be, but he's good.
Gotcha. All right, we'll get your Super Bowl prediction after we hear from Jay here. So, Jay, coming into this point of the season, really the key has been Daniel Jones and just his very impressive season that he's had. Limiting turnovers, really getting it done on the ground. That was a pretty universal worry that we had in the Giants preview show over the summer from myself as well as the other Giants fans. But Brian Daboll comes in and you just completely forget that Joe Judge was even the coach last year. It took me a good...
Please don't say that name. Don't ever say that name ever again.
It took me a good 5 minutes to even think, I don't think it was Jason Garrett because there was like a gap there because that wacko's been on TV.
No, he was our offensive coordinator. The creative Jason Garrett was our offensive
He wasn't even the
coordinator.
coach. Oh my gosh, that's insanity. But yeah, so either way, all that is just seems like it's in the distant past, just with how great and encouraging this season has been under Brian Daboll. I think when the switch happened for me was that London game against the Packers. I thought, well, the Packers are just gonna steamroll them. First half it seemed that way. Then the Giants came all the way back and won that. Then they just kept on winning and just kept on taking care of the ball and playing well. As a Penn Stater, I am, very happy to see Saquon Barkley succeed, of course. So impossible for me to not root for him. But Jay, at this point of the season, what would you say you're most confident about going into this matchup? And what are you least confident about going into this matchup here against the Vikings?
What I'm most confident about is getting pressure on the quarterback, which plays well into our chances for this game because the Giants we're the most blitz-heavy team on the season, 40% blitz percentage. There was not another team that was over 35% blitzing this season. And Kirk Cousins' completion percentage goes way down when he's pressured. 70 goes from 70% to 56% when blitzed, from the 5th best to the 29th the 29th best. So that's the only way we're going to win this game. If we get pressure constantly on Kirk Cousins, because I am not confident in our offense other than Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones running the ball. It's definitely been a nice turnaround. I came into this season, blow it up, let's start from scratch, new quarterback, new everything. But it's amazing. Yeah, I know you've seen this with the Philadelphia Eagles. It's amazing when you have a front office and a coaching staff that builds an offense around the talent that they have. And
Right.
they've done that with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones rushed for over 700 yards this year. And I was looking up some stats before the game, and apparently we are undefeated when Daniel Jones rushes the ball more than 10 times. So that's how we're going to win this game, getting pressure on Kirk Cousins and running the ball, whether it's Saquon, Daniel Jones, getting both of these guys involved, because like Glitton so graciously said, our wide receiver duo of Richie James and Isaiah Hodgins doesn't necessarily strike fear in the opposing defense, even though the Vikings have one of the worst, if not the worst, secondary in the league. That's not me talking junk. It's just facts, unfortunately. But yeah, they've been struggled against running backs who can catch the ball as well. So only way we're going to win this game, getting pressure on Kirk Cousins and run the ball, run the ball, run the ball.
Run the ball, eat up the clock, and keep him off the field.
Keep Justin Jefferson, T.J. Hawkinson, Dalvin Cook off the field.
For sure. Okay, yeah, I think that's very logical. I'm definitely I'm looking forward to this one. Again, just as an Eagles fan, I may be facing one of them, in the future here. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Now, fellas, I want to hear from both of you. Who would you predict would be the Super Bowl winner this year, just from what we know at this point? Say your team that doesn't make it, of course. And then who would you be kind of rooting for in case your team loses? So we'll start with Clinton on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Vikings sneak by this week. A close one, just kind of like in that New Year's Eve game. I think it's going to be a very similar game. I think Cousins is going to be a little better. I think the Vikings will jump out ahead rather than let a team destroy them for the first, 3/4 of a game and then come back. But I think they sneak one out barely again, but then they go to San Francisco and lose. Now, as far as but let me say, I should say this. Okay, so it's a weird year for the Vikings, obviously, right? They have pulled off some miracle games, and then they've looked like the worst team in the league at the same time. After the Cowboys beat them, the Cowboys are going to the Super Bowl. What was it, like 50-3 or whatever it was. But at the same time, in all those games, the Vikings have, let's say, they've given up the special teams touchdowns and the defensive touchdowns. If you can limit that kind of thing, they really can beat anybody. They have the offense to do it. Their defense makes crucial plays, but they give up a ton of yards. They can't do that. So that being said, I still think they lose to the 49ers around 2. But I think the Super Bowl is, I want to say the Bengals. I really want to say that the Bengals pull through, but I think their road is too tough. I think that second round matchup, the divisional round that they're going to have to place against Buffalo, that's going to be that slobber knocker game we didn't get to see a couple weeks ago. And it beats both those teams up. I think the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl. They've got something in their hat this year that just kind of like the Vikings a little bit, that it doesn't matter what they do on a Sunday. It seems like they've pulled out a victory. So I think it's Vikings and Eagles. I think Purdy has, if they stick with Purdy, which I think they will in the playoffs, throughout the playoffs of 49ers, but I think he finally has one of those, oh man, this guy really is a rookie that wasn't even drafted or whatever it was, 7th round, not drafted, whatever he was.
The very last pick, the Mr. Irrelevant,
he shows up as who he is, and they can't mask him enough that, the Eagles defense. I think it's the Eagles versus Chiefs is my Super Bowl this year, and a long way to say it. Which I hope the Eagles get destroyed because I can't stand the Eagles. Sorry. That after that NFC Championship game with the Vikings and Eagles.
Oh yeah,
yeah. But they're great. I like Hurts a lot. He was one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league. I like Miles Sanders. So yeah, it'll be a good Super Bowl. Chiefs, Eagles. Chiefs win.
Gotcha. Yeah, you're too kind, Clinton. You got to get some of that aggression out.
It's Minnesota nice. It's passive aggressive.
I know.
You can go, but I hate you. That kind of thing.
You're too kind, but no, I am with you. A lot of mutual respect there, but yeah, I mean, my pick all this time is still the Chiefs. If not the Eagles, of course. I think it still is going to go through Patrick Mahomes there, who I think should be the league MVP, of course. But yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe we'll see some more of that, like ring around the rosy stuff that we saw against the Raiders. I don't know. So I'll have to keep an eye out for that after their bye week here. But how about you, Jay? Uh, who do you like to be the Super Bowl champion, if not the Giants, of course?
Well, I'll go ahead and say this. Even if we do win this week, we're not winning any more games than that. We're already playing with house money. I'm
Sure.
just happy to
Yeah.
be here. I'm not going to lie. It's been a long time since the Giants have had any sort of hope for the future. Like, I went into this season, like, we get 5 wins and like look okay. Like, I'm ecstatic. Like,
Yeah.
I'm very excited for the future for the Giants for the first time in a long time. That being said, out of the AFC, I'm with you guys. I think it's the Chiefs. Obviously, there's some really tough teams. The Bills feel like a team of destiny this year. That's probably who I'm pulling for, just for all they
Sure.
went through. And I've got a lot of close friends. We all know Jeff Bell, big Bills fan. I would love to see the Bills finally get that gigantic 8,000-pound gorilla off their back and finally get
Yes.
that Super Bowl championship. That's who I'm pulling for. But just like you said, there's something about the Chiefs this year. I mean, look what Patrick Mahomes is doing. He's had one of his best statistical seasons after losing Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
And honestly, Kelsey really hasn't done that much lately. I mean, it's been Jerick McKinnon. I mean, Kelsey's still the number one option there, but he's been doing it with the hodgepodge of receivers that he has. Juju's been a pretty big part. MVS has had his games. It's been all Patrick Mahomes, and I think that he goes to the Super Bowl. But I believe, and man, this hurts to say, no pun intended, the Philadelphia Eagles win another Super Bowl. I believe they're the most complete team, no question, in the NFL. Their defense is phenomenal. I mean, Roseman keeps just adding these random guys, and picks up what in Ndamukong Suh. Like, hey, you know what? They might as well just call Lawrence Taylor and see if he wants to play, because they keep just adding people coming in, and
Yeah.
it's working, man. And Hurts is really taking that step that a lot of people, myself included, wasn't sure that he was going to be able to make as a passer. Having AJ Brown on the opposite side of Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert's back. I mean, Miles Sanders. I love, and I'm not going to say hate, because hate's not a right word. I'm angry with Miles Sanders because I have been a Miles Sanders truther since he came into the league. I love Miles Sanders. I've always loved the talent. They just would never give him the ball. This was the first year I find is like, you know what? If they're not going to give him the ball, I'm giving up. I'm out. And then he has one of his best seasons the entire year. So I just think the Eagles are a team that can win it just about any way they need to. They've had some struggles here or there, but every team is. And I think that they're the one team, if the 49ers had Jimmy G, I would probably go with the 49ers, but I'm with you guys on Brock Purdy. I think the undrafted rookie is going to show up eventually. And I hate to say it because I don't want this to happen, but I think that the Eagles win the Super Bowl.
Yeah. No. It's a weird position to be in to even be at like a first seed and everything else. But yeah, it's really nice not have to play this weekend. But I am still just had that thing in the back of my head where I'm just imagining just Donovan McNabb just blowing it again in the NFC Championship or whatever. That's always is going to be there. But it is just a very different kind of team and a much more complete offense than what those Eagles teams of the past. I mean, for a while there they hardly had a wide receiver one until they had To, but that's going way back. But yeah, so it's a very exciting time, and this is always a fun weekend of NFL action. It's just sad, because this is like the fullest week of NFL action until like the preseason. You know what I mean? So
It's
just
gonna be so
matchups
exciting
start to
this
diminish.
weekend.
Yep,
And then it's just gonna dwindle down there. Like, this is
that's right.
awesome. I want to do it again. No, there's not
That's
quite as
right.
many
Yeah.
games.
I just hope they're
So
great games. You always
Yeah.
go into this weekend, and then sometimes there's duds. It already sucks that Tua can't play,
I
that
know.
Lamar might not play.
right.
Like that. You want that. I was like, man, I wish those guys. But you obviously care about their safety, depending
Right.
what Lamar's really doing. Is he sitting out because of contract? Blah blah blah.
He
You know,
tweeted something today.
um,
Yeah, I
did he?
saw
He's
that.
hurting.
Yep.
Oh,
He's
is he? Okay.
swollen.
Yeah,
Can't.
swollen.
He wishes he could.
Yeah.
I don't
But
blame the guy one
yeah.
bit.
Back to
Nah,
the Bills, finally getting that Super Bowl. My ideal, and I said at the beginning of the season, I said Vikings Bills Super Bowl. Finally, somebody gets their Super Bowl after losing 4 or whatever it was. Like
Right,
I
that.
was
right.
I was
Even though I'm
hoping
a
the
homer, like that would be cool. And the Vikings would lose on a missed field goal or something like that, or whatever.
that's the
But
that's the Bills MO. That's how they lost to us in the Super Bowl.
right,
But I was
yeah,
hoping the same
that
thing,
was in
but I was
Minnesota.
hoping it was going to be the Lions. I would have liked to see a Lions Bills Super Bowl because I don't think anybody would have been mad who won that game.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah,
I
A
do miss the Lions
couple
again.
I think
couple notes.
the only way that the Bills Vikings with the missed field goal at the end is it's got to be wide left. We're done with wide right, right? We got to be done with wide right.
Blair Walsh. Oh,
Oh man, no, yeah, that was a rough
Scott
one.
Norwood.
Oof. I did have just a couple of points about the Giants for Jay real quick.
Okay.
So with the it just came to mind with the improvement of Daniel Jones and with Brian Dable. How where are you at on extending Daniel Jones? Do you think what you've seen has been ample enough to extend him? Or like coming into the season, if they had another poor season, you would have been very happy taking one of, the top quarterback prospects, I'm sure. Don't want to put words in your mouth, but like where are you at like at this point? Do you have a newfound confidence in him? Like would you be happy with an extension or
Confidence is a strong word.
okay.
I would. Full disclosure, you hit the nail on the head. I came into this season enough is enough, and I'm a Duke fan, so like I should be ecstatic. Like Daniel Jones, a guy from Duke,
Right.
the quarterback of my favorite pro team. I was pissed off when we drafted him because I like Daniel Jones, but I've never felt like he's the guy that can take a team on his back and win, and lead them to victory, lead them to Super Bowl. Like what he's doing now is great, but he wasn't worthy of as high as we drafted him. I wanted us to draft him later in the first, but that's
Yep.
here nor there. I came into the season and honestly, I was pissed off at the start for the Giants. Like I was like, I don't want to win these games. Give me the number one pick because I
Yeah,
had
yeah.
no relative idea that we would actually make the playoffs.
Right.
And I'm not unrealistic. We're not going to win the Super Bowl. It would be one of the biggest upsets in football history. We're not winning the Super Bowl, but I honestly think, and I've flip-flopped on this a few times throughout the season. I think I'm okay with going with Daniel Jones going into next year. Not confident, not excited, just
Right.
okay because as an amazing job as Brian Dable has done with his team, playing up, this team really believes in him, believes in each other. They are playing way better than the talent that we have on this team. Even though, we came close to winning 10 games, we're in the playoffs. There are a lot of holes to fill. And I think we can use, the draft capital elsewhere. Maybe take a project quarterback somewhere in, the fifth, sixth, seventh round, something along those lines. But as long as it's a reasonable price, I'm okay with it. The way that he really, like you touched on earlier, cut down on his turnovers. He's running the ball great as long as he's not tripping over his own feet. I'm okay with it. I think he's he's shown me enough, and he's Brian Dable seems bought in, and that's what matters.
Yeah, it's kind of minimize the urgency to
Right.
look elsewhere at the position, right? So you don't need to, make the big move to trade up to get, CJ Stroud or whomever, right?
Right.
So yeah, no, so I think you definitely have a pretty healthy mentality about Daniel Jones. Just your fandom sometimes can take you to weird
Right.
places, but it seems like you got your feet on the ground, so that's good. Yeah, so that this was great, guys. I appreciate you're all coming on and talking some football. And of course, I want to wish you all best of luck with your matchups. But there'd be a conflict of interest with at least two of you on screen here, and with myself, just kind of waiting to see what happens. But guys, Brett, Clinton, Jay, and Jay, thanks for coming on and thanks for talking some ball. And yeah, best of luck.
Appreciate it.
See you guys.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
All right, folks. So that wraps up part 2 of the Wild Card Weekend preview. Enjoy the games and keep climbing.